Hey everybody, thank you for coming in to our first official episode of the Fantasy Lowdown. What my goal with this episode is I'm trying to merge data and game tape to kind of give people a better understanding of how to gain an edge in fantasy, because the edges are kind of disappearing over time. Like, we're getting smarter, we have more information, everything's really at our fingertips. So it's up to us as managers to be able to use everything at our disposal to make us better players in this game that we all love. Because if you're tuning in this channel, you're a fantasy diehard just as much as myself. And this is more of a passion project for myself. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in. One of the first things I wanted to get into, and what I want to touch on, is surprises for the year. And in particularly, there is a player who is in Carolina who is old. He's a wide receiver. He's coming off a few back-to-back down seasons. He's in a wide receiver room with a rookie quarterback, and that's a problem. And this would be Mr. Adam Thielen. Why I wanted to touch on him is because he's been the biggest surprise of fantasy. Say what you want about the running backs, the McCaffreys, the Ecklers, and all those guys, right? You have the Kelsey, the tight end. Thielen's giving you a massive advantage of war, and particularly where you got him, where people didn't even want to draft him. And myself in particular, I took him in the Scott Fish Bowl, late in the Scott Fish Bowl, in like the 14th round, basically because I didn't have wide receivers and I had to. Did I want to take him? No, I did not. Why? Because he was on a downward trend in his career. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. So interestingly enough, here is the pace for Adam Thielen. If we look at this pace, right, Adam Thielen is just going ham on this. So let's zoom this out a little bit. 138 receptions, career high, 1,442 yards, also career high, and 11 touchdowns. It's just ridiculous for Adam Thielen. I really don't understand how he is doing that, but we're going to get into it to kind of talk about why he's doing this and how he's up there in target share. He's near the league leaders in air yard share. We've seen a new stat come in called first read, and that is like the first read targets, basically like you're the first look for the quarterback. And that's important because quarterbacks trust those guys the most, because those are schemed touches, and scheme touches are incredibly important, right? Because you need touches in fantasy football to succeed. So if you're getting hyper targeted, such as Adam Thielen, it's really just fascinating to look at. So I compiled all of his week 6 touches for us, and I wanted to kind of break those down using game film to show you why it's working so well, how a lot of these touches are easy touches. And what I call about that, he's going against zone coverage. He's playing a lot in the slot. He's upwards of 70% in the slot. And what that does is these are easy passes for his quarterback, who is a rookie quarterback, and they have no one else on the team. They have, they have DJ Chark, they have Mingo, they have Hayden Hurst, like a lot of these guys, Chuba Hubbard's currently the running back, but they have Miles Sanders, who we talked about, being a fade going to Carolina. And this is kind of playing out because he's just not that good of a pass catching running back. But, the offseason, people get going and with that. It's not how it really works out, right? Like, so this is kind of where Thielen's breaking how I view fantasy, because he's seen all the targets and he was coming off of a really career low in stats. So I want to share this little tab with you guys to show you what I'm talking about. So we'll go to player profile for a second before we break down the game footage and just look at his stats. So Thielen is really on a career pace. Now, look at his yards per reception, his air yards, all that stuff's great. But look at the fantasy points, 21.1 fantasy points. And yeah, I'm still kind of, as you can tell, I'm still pretty shook on this whole Thielen situation. I've bought into him in a couple situations where I traded picks for him a few weeks ago in September because he looked just fantastic in this offense where it was just target after target. It's basically he's serving as Cooper Kupp. So this is what I wanted to break down. So we'll take that off the field. We got it right here. But yeah, as you can see, he's basically at a career pace for him. So it's fantastic. I don't have anything else to say too much about that. So how about we dive into this footage to kind of break down why Thielen's being successful and why Bryce Young trusts him so much. Because rookie quarterbacks, they need a blanket, and usually it's like the tight end, right? Because he's in the middle, he's open. Not in this situation. In week 1, Thielen was injured. He didn't run a ton of routes. He basically was a decoy, and he was going off of an injury that we didn't realize was severe at that point. But after week 1, he's just been barnstorming the league. So if you look at his game log, it's been incredibly impressive. You look at this where he's got 9 targets week 2, 14 targets week 3, 8 targets week 4, 13 targets week 5, 13 targets week 6, and receiving yards 54, 145, 76, 107, and 115. fantasy points. He had 20 in week 2, 31 in 3, 15 in week 4, which has been a season low since week 2, 27 in week 5, and 28 in week 6, where he's basically had 3 top 5 wide receiver finishes in the last 5 weeks. That's absurd. And I don't really understand what you're doing. It's just, I'm a little speechless. So let's dive into the video footage, shall we? So there we have first down and 10. We have from the Carolina 36. As you can see, Thielen is up on the right-hand corner. Sorry about that. There he is right there. Highlighted him in the white circle for you to see him. He's up on the line of scrimmage. A lot of times he will be off the line of scrimmage, but it's first and 10. They're looking for an easy completion here. You'll see how they run this play. Watch Thielen on this route, where he goes. Now, Bryce sees the play, he checks it. Thielen just comes across right through the zone and just keeps trailing, and Bryce hits him perfectly. As you can see, that type of route is perfect because you're going to have someone trailing with them in the tire, and it opens right in the middle of the zone. And this is something veteran wide receivers do very well. They find the spots in the zone. As you can see where Bryce is looking at, watch Thielen right there. As soon as he passes the middle linebacker, he gets the edge, and then that's just Yak City. That's just a perfect play for Thielen to dominate. So as you can see, if he's getting looks like that, this is in doubt. Now, interestingly enough, we have 3rd and 6 from the Miami 33. Thielen is on the right-hand side of the screen. You can see him. I'm actually just going to open this up so it's a little bigger. You don't need to see me on this. All right, so we have Thielen. He's going to go in motion. No one goes with him, so that tells you it's zone coverage, right? Watch number 8 come down. The safety comes down. He takes the inside release guy. So then Miami shifts their coverage, right? The corner backs off. You see it. You see how they pass it off in zone coverage. Thielen sits down and just runs an easy out route, which is an easy throw for a quarterback to make. So watch it from the quarterback's point of view. Now, here comes Thielen in motion. In motion. What does that tell you? That's zone coverage. 8 comes down. He's going to play zone there. They're shifting. Miami sends the safety back to go one high safety. Now watch on the left side of the screen. You see we have a guy going deep, and Thielen just out route. Easy all day. That's just bread and butter. Those are easy completions for a quarterback. And for a rookie in particular, that's what you want to do for a rookie. You want to have him easy choices. Now here's his touchdown play. Now this is a fascinating one, and I actually really enjoyed this play from Carolina. Once again, they're going to send Thielen in motion here. It's just an 8-yard play, and watch how this works out. So Thielen comes in motion. Do you see how number 4, right side of the screen, he comes in motion? That means it's man coverage on Thielen. So you see that. Bryce realizes that, and this is telling you this is going to work. Watch they run a clear out, and watch Thielen go out and in into the post of the middle of the field. It's perfect. So watch this. Here is Thielen, bottom right-hand side of the screen. He fakes out, darts in, right behind the safety perfectly. They caught the safety cheating a little bit. He was coming down a little bit because he thought Thielen was going to run the slant. He ran a little higher. He saw the coverage perfectly because they're talking to each other. And look at this. This is just beautiful route by Thielen and a beautiful throw by Bryce. Perfectly timed where he hits it right above. And you see that. Just that's ideal. Like you see Bryce coming along and really just trusting Thielen. So he's been better. It was rough the first couple of weeks of the season, but when you're making plays like this and you have someone you trust so much, it's just a thing of beauty. So we have another drive. This is second down on their own 29. Thielen is off the line in the slot. You'll see this a lot. Thielen is going to be in the slot the majority of the time. I think he's upward of 70%. It might be 67%. It's not really super important, the exact detail, but it really works for Thielen because in the slot, you're off line of scrimmage. This gives you a lot of free releases, and he's not going to get pressed. He's not going to get jammed, right? He's going to be able to just work in the middle of the field in the zone. And this is going to be a zone look, and you'll see this because he's going to get passed down. So watch him work. And as Aaron, this old man, I don't know. I think he must have got a hip replacement or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, the dude just doing something special. I literally thought he was cooked. I didn't know he had this in him still. But when you're not playing with Justin Jefferson, and there's literally nobody else in this team, it's just so impressive. I was watching these routes today, and it's a veteran working well with his quarterback. And he honestly doesn't have to do a lot. Like, these are routes Thielen's run thousands of times. It's nothing too complicated for Thielen. There's a few choice routes in here where he gets to sit where he wants to sit, and Bryce reads it. So they're working, that telekinesis with each other. But, sometimes old man, they put that old man work. It's kind of like when you go the old pickup, right, and you're playing hoops and you see that old dude that's just bodying guys, backing them down, little jump hook, stuff like that, because he knows the tricks of the trade, and Thielen still knows it. It's just he can still do it. So we'll watch this play right here on the 29, and you can see what Thielen's doing right here. He's just going to pop and sit. And look at that. That's just easy. And the best part about this play is him actually juking out and getting the first down. That's not what Thielen does, but he's winning for you. It's just so impressive. 93%. Oh, boy. No, you dropped him. Oh, my guy. No. Yeah, I took him with Scott Fishbowl, like I said earlier. one league. I took it with like one league. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to trade for this old man. We'll see how it works out. Set a 3rd round pick in multiple leagues, got him, and I'm loving life with that. Now, in my home league, this one dude is asking for the moon. He wanted Kyler Murray. I said, what are we doing here? You want Kyler Murray for Adam Thielen? You can kick rocks. Like, the problem with him in Dynasty is just like, yeah, when you played enough leagues, it's nice to have 42 shares, right? So, yeah, this is the thing. This is why I love playing all these leagues where you get to enjoy the highs and lows. Sometimes you're like, oh, I missed out on them. But if you literally have him in every league where he's a free pick, because I know you're talking about that player profile has been anti-Adam Thielen because, he's been trending down. But nowadays, it's like, heck, whoever was in on Adam Thielen. I was talking to Tootsie Pop, Rachel, and she had a little article she did on him, and she was really excited to go over it. I was like, yeah, like, it's just – I don't think anyone expected him to be like this level, right? I thought he could give you replacement level wide receiver numbers. No. He's a high-end wide receiver one. So go figure how this works. So I'll watch this from the backside view and watch what Thielen does here. This is actually really impressive. So you see Bryce right here, and he's just going to check it down. Thielen's going to sit with his own and watch right here. Boop! And the guy overplays, and Thielen gets the first down. That's just a veteran finding the seam and working in there. Now, on this one's actually pretty fun. This is 3rd and 10, Carolina 35. Watch where Thielen in. He checks, Bryce checks, he passes it on, which is another thing of having a great veteran wide receiver has it on. And he's just, once again, he's going to sit, but this is actually the most impressive throw I've seen by Bryce because he throws it to the only spot Thielen can make a play. Thielen sits, but the defender's right on his ass. So 19, all right on the left-hand side of the screen. Watch where Thielen sits and watch Bryce here. This is what I'm talking about and why I've been actually really impressed with these two connections because they are working very well. So you'll see Bryce, they read the play, they know what's happening. Thielen sits down, Bryce throws it to the only spot where you can make a play. A lot of people might force it, but Bryce is smart. He knows what he's doing. And that's just a well-documented play. So I was more impressed with Bryce than I was on Thielen. He thought he sat a little too close to the defender on this when he should have been out farther. But, Bryce met him easily, and it worked out well. Oh, baby. Ugh. And did they take it or no? For sheesh. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I'm not really a big Addison guy myself, but, if you can get yourself Thielen for Addison, hell yeah, I would do that in a heartbeat, which is actually an interesting trade. It's like, it's funny how we're going to swing the other way on him, right? People are going to value him like he's the top 5 wide receiver the rest of the season, even though it seems super sketchy. You're playing with a rookie quarterback, which actually I want to bring up where are we at in this video? We're at like 3 minutes and 4 minutes. I want to bring up another part, which is Larky, which brought this up. So I'm going to share this tab really quick instead. We're going to move off and go out of here. If I can find it, lost StreamYard, where are we at? There we are. So if we pull this up, as you can see right here, and we go to full screen, there's literally no quarterback is a rookie quarterback is able to support a wide receiver as good as really what Thielen's doing. Because we're talking about this is just uncharted territory. The best guy has been freaking Keenan Allen with Justin Herbert a few years ago. We had 16 plus points per game. That's it. Like, there's the only guy to do that. So Thielen's really in uncharted territory. It's so impressive. Like, I can't believe it. I don't know how he's doing it. But we'll go back to this. So we got right here. We got Thielen down there. 1st and 10, the Miami 49. Watch the play. Just easy peasy. Boop. Right there. And it's just another completion. It's super easy. Like, he's sitting down in zone. A lot of these completions are just easy. And with Thielen, he's done this 1,000 times in his life, right? He knows where to sit. Bryce waits for it to clear out. He doesn't quite get to the middle linebacker. He sits down right in the middle. And that's just money. This is where he's a PPR scam because he's seen these looks. And yeah, I'm honestly not surprised. Like, he's gonna be so impressive where people are just like, you know what? I'm not trading Thielen because he's that found money. They're like, no, he's a god now. Like what I was talking about with Kyler Murray. It's just like, so now you probably got to overpay to get Thielen where you could get him for being free. Now it's just like he costs $1 million. So go figure. I'm assuming that was redraft. If that's Dynasty and the piece said that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that'd be a whole nother level. But yeah. So we got 1st and 10 on the Miami 33 here. Now watch this play from Thielen. So he sits perfectly. It's just a little curl route, and that's easy because he sees the defense off, so he cuts it off short. That's just easy yardage. Like, this is what I'm talking about. None of these routes are too complicated. We're not doing a lot of difficult stuff, John. We're just going in the zone, and with the NFL playing so much zone coverage, like, this works so well for Thielen because he's actually been really good against man this year, which is kind of surprising to myself. But that zone's an advantage, man. Like, you just sit down and you play it in the slot. This is where slot guys dominate in the zone. So take a look where Thielen is. He's stacked up above. As you see, he's the outside wide receiver. The stack, that gives him another free release. He's just going to put in work. You see the snap. There it is. Watch that. Boom. the guy clears out and Thielen just goes right underneath. That's just an easy 5%, and that's 1.5 yards right towards you. Easy all day. And you'll notice how there haven't been many incompletions because a lot of these throws are super easy. There are a few throws later in the game where it's a little bit harder for Bryce and they miss, but he was basically, I think, 11 for 13 in targets to Thielen, and like that's just super easy. So Bryce threw it 38 times. Basically, a third of his targets were to Thielen in this game, which is just an absurd. We're talking peak Cooper Cup season. Like, this is what we're getting from Adam Thielen. No, he's not as good as Cooper Cup. He's obviously older. He's had some wear and tear. He's dealt with injuries and all this stuff. But man, it's when these walking dead dudes resurrect their career. Like, we thought a lot of these guys. Mike Evans was cooked. We thought Adam Thielen was dust. Devontae Adams, new quarterback. He's obviously struggled a little bit. But these old veteran wide receivers are absolutely dominating. Stephon Diggs doing his thing where they're saying, hey, you know what, Dynasty heads? Like, it's not over yet. Just take your sweet time. Don't worry about it. Like, we still got something left in the tank. So if you had an old team in this offseason, you probably hated your life with those guys, right? But if you have them now, you're a world beater, and people are wondering what happened where they have like T. Higgins, Devonta Smith, all these like high-profile names that just are producing. You're sitting there with a guy you couldn't get a freaking second-round pick for in Adam Thielen. Or Mike Evans, you could never get a first-round pick. You haven't been able to get a first-round pick for Mike Evans in 5 years, and they're just dominating. So it's fun to watch. All right, so here we have another play for Thielen. Watch this. Just going to sit, and that's the cross that's underneath. So 86 or 88, Tommy Tremble runs it off. Thielen cuts underneath, and that's just easy because he's underneath. So 2nd and 10, 41 here. This is what I actually like what they're doing with Thielen. Watch the route he runs and where he sits and where freaking Bryce hits him. It's perfect. Like, if you watch the game, you see it. So he actually gets a press there. He gets off of it and he sits down perfectly. The guy doesn't really disrupt him. Defender number 2 right there, standing above the ball. But watch it. So 2's right here. He's watching Bryce. He's going to try to disrupt Thielen's route. He misses, doesn't get him enough, really puts in a terrible effort. And Thielen still is able to just sit down. That's an easy completion. Just pepper it down. Because 2 is in no man's land there. If he's trying to hit him, right? He can't stop it. And Thielen just, as you can see, a lot of these targets are just super easy looks. There's nothing difficult about them. So with the way this offense is set up, and at this point in the game, Carolina's trailing by a lot because we're getting late in the third quarter right here, and we're almost done pushing into the fourth quarter. So it started out well for Carolina. They got up to an early start, got the Thielen touchdown, put them up 14-0. It kind of went downhill. I mean, it's no surprise. Miami's probably the best offense in the league, so that'll happen. But they still featured Thielen. He had a couple drives in the end of the half. He had about 3 consecutive targets. We're hitting about that point in the game in the late fourth quarter where Thielen was just started. He went off again where he has these drives where he's going off. So let me pull it up really quick. So I want to pull it if I can. Sorry about this. A little lost with that. So yeah. So we're late into the third. We're almost in the fourth. Thielen's just doing his thing. So let's watch this play again and go from there. So 2nd and 5 from 13. As you can see, we're Thielen with the white sleeve. If you're curious where to look, it's just the guy in front of him, Hayden Hurst. He runs another clear out. He takes the middle linebacker with him, and watch Thielen. It's basically double slant is what this is. And you'll see it. Watch 81, Hurst. He's going to run, takes the linebacker enough, and then boom, look at this. Wide open throw. Thielen, there's no one within anywhere of him. You see how easy of a throw that is for Bryce? They're going to keep worrying. They're going to keep doing that. And it's just, they're featuring him. Yeah, like, I don't know what's going on with Mingo, to tell you the truth. There's definitely room for him to succeed. Chark's not doing anything, and like Laviska's just a casualty at this point. I love you, Laviska. Maybe one day you can get some more running back, rushes and just be Cordero Patterson in 5 years, and that would be great for you, but he's just not a good wide receiver. He just didn't develop, and the interesting thing is they brought in Thielen to play the slot, so that just neutralizes Mingo, who they drafted, who actually specializes in big slot, right? So I don't know. Maybe they drafted him and didn't like it. It just made no sense why they drafted Mingo. I understand the reasoning of why they chased it because, he's that big athletic profile. His production profile is not great, but yeah, I mean, he should be able to get some good looks. It's just they don't trust him yet. And maybe with him, it might take him a little bit longer because, he didn't have that much production. He was more of, along that Quentin Johnson where he's going to take some time to develop. That could be that. But yeah, short term, like it's really hard to count on Mingo. And if you're being this successful from Thielen, I don't see why Reich is really going to scheme away. The interesting caveat to the whole Thielen thing is they're passing on the offensive coordinator duties. They were splitting it, but Reich's kind of giving up that duty. So I am curious to see how this affects Thielen. But he's already in town. He's been involved. they're going hand in hand with this. I really shouldn't change too much for Thielen. So yeah, I'm definitely a little worried for Mingo though. I didn't mean to go on a tangent there, but yeah, he worries me a bit. Like, interesting. First and 10 on the 40. Now this is a bunch formation. You see Thielen's on the inside. We have the 2 wide receivers, and look, there's no other than any close to him. Like, this is ideal for free releases. This is what Jalen had in Tennessee all the time, right? You have a stack or you have a bunch formation where you're giving yourself a free release, and that's just a much easier route to run for the wide receiver. There's no disruption. Watch this. So watch Thielen on the inside. He's down low at the bottom of the screen. He's on the left-hand corner of the triangle. And just watch. Like, this sets him up. So you see how he gets about 10 yards before he has any contact from anybody. He does get jammed here, so this is unfortunate and does disrupt his route, but no contact for like almost 10 yards. And it's light contact. They're not going to call that. And Bryce gets pressured, so that's a tough throw. But you see how this play set up for him to succeed, right? So watch Bryce. He's going to read the defense. He sees it. It looks right towards Thielen almost immediately. So you know it's first read to Thielen. And he's just waiting for Thielen to get past that defender, and he's going to try to lead him. That's just this is the opposite of the throws we're going to see all day. This is a hard throw to be accurate. This is what Russell Wilson will do a long time. He would hit these throws, but Bryce is a rookie. This is a hard throw for him to hit. Rookie quarterbacks are going to struggle with these throws because, you know, you're still learning it. You're not fully in form, but you're getting there. But a throw like this, where Thielen really doesn't have much of an edge to it has to be pinpoint accurate. And this is the first incompletion they have all day. So it's like they start out 11 for 11, and then they miss one, right? And it's like, okay. And then they go back, and they're like, you know what? We missed Thielen. Let's try this again. So this is 2nd and 10 from the 40, and this is going to be Thielen's last pass attempts. But listen, he cuts it, and it's just a bad throw from Bryce here. Another just basically you're taking the outside wide receiver. You're running him on a 9 route. What you're doing is you're taking the defender, you're clearing him out of that zone, and you're running Thielen on an out route. And you saw about 3 or 4 of these from Thielen today where they were successful. This one missed. And this is just a little bit missed from Bryce, just a little off with the touch. You can see it here. Watch where Bryce is looking at, and he just misses just a smidge. But still, this is a design look for Thielen, and he's got to hit that. Thielen still almost catches that, but you know, sometimes quarterback. It is far to the other sideline where you miss it, and you know that happens sometimes. But I kind of want to pull up the next gen charts for Thielen and talk about those. So let's go to next gen really quick. We'll bust up the charts, and we're gonna go teams Carolina. And you can kind of see, we're going to share this tab instead. Go over here, go back to StreamYard. All right, we're going to clear this out for a second. And as you can see, now look at all the routes Thielen has ran and where he's being successful. Let me actually type his name in really quick, show you what I'm talking about. So we have his week 6 route tree, and you can see it. So look at where Thielen is lining up. A ton in the slot and on the inside, right-hand side of the screen. A lot of inside breaking routes, those little after catches, the green. You can see the touchdown and then the yak he had. So he had this direct up the middle, the touchdown. The fun yak play where he came across and broke past the linebacker. You see that, the yak there. But look at this. All of this is inside. So there's so much stuff in the middle of the zone. This is where Thielen was dominating. Now, if we go to week 5, it's a little bit more spread out. But you can see a lot of short line of scrimmage stuff. Not too much stuff down the field. And that makes sense. He's not going to be a deep threat, right? Everything's going to be short. PPR scam, that's what we mean. Like, you're going to get short. You're going to get easy passes. Just stuff that works for your quarterback, moves your offense, and keeps it going because you want these drives to sustain. And this is what Thielen really excels at. So as you can go, we'll go to week 4, same stuff. He didn't run as many routes, but still, 7 of 8 catches, 76 yards, a little bit of yak, everything middle of the field. You see this. So you can tell the plan. In week 3, this was bonkers. They had him going everywhere. I actually love what they did week 3 here because they had him run a drag and then an up, and you see that. He had the touchdown across the middle. They gave him the old Kyle Pitts turn left, a few that way. This week 3 usage is actually really good. You love seeing teams lining players up all over the field and how they use him. Ideally, it's not always going to work out that way with Thielen, depending on if he gets – the one caveat I'll say with Thielen is if he gets shut down, this offense really has nothing else, right? So I do love the next gen shots of what they're telling you, and you line it up and you see, you're just like, man, he's just been so good. Sorry about that. I don't know what else you do. There's really not much else in Carolina, and that's the biggest problem, right? We were worried about Bryce Young. He's obviously coming along, and he's pairing with Thielen. So like this is why I'm really confident with Adam Thielen moving on. Let me see. Are you worried that Frank Wright handed off play calling duties today? Yeah, I'll touch on it a little bit. It does worry me a little bit. Like, I'm curious to see what changes they're going to make. I know they talked about Miles Sanders, but he's dealing with injury. They're not really going to feature him more. Chuba Hubbard's just been better, right? So I know we do the follow the money thing with the running backs and situations like that. It doesn't always work out. And it did not with Miles Sanders. I just don't know who else, as a play caller, like who else are you going to scheme touches for? Hayden Hurst, he's just not a good tight end. DJ Chark, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you could get Mingo some touches because he's a rookie, and you try and scheme him touches, but it's not great. So like that's the thing. Like I think it's set up so well for Adam Thielen in this offense. Like, why would you go away from it? Because this is your best EPA plays. This is where you're getting your most success, and this is why you're setting Bryce Young up for future play, because you're building confidence with Bryce Young, and he has that dependable wide receiver, which he doesn't have elsewhere, which I find fascinating with this offense. Like I'm actually more confident in Bryce Young than when I was earlier, because based on what I'm seeing from how they're scheming him these easy looks, obviously he's missing some things. It's not working out. He's a rookie, right? He's the first overall pick. But yeah, like I'm a little bit more confident in both these guys after watching this game tape and seeing how they're featuring Thielen, which this is what I wanted to check out and really dive into this data. And Miami gave them a lot of soft looks, and they took advantage of that, right? So they were just like, you know what, if you're going to give us these soft looks, we're going to be 7-8 yards off, or you're going to run zone and leave these massive holes where you're going to play soft zone. You let him sit down, and then, yeah, it works out. So I will say it's interesting to see. But, like, if we look at Mingo's targets, it's not been good. He's been decent. He's had 5 targets, 8 targets, 6 targets, 7 targets, and then it drops down to 3. His route participation was 85% in week 5, 92% last week. It's just he just didn't see the looks. They really didn't do anything with him. And I don't know if that's an injury. I'll show it right here. So you can see, like, we'll build this out. But, like, this is what I'm talking about. So, yeah, like, they should feature Jonathan Mingo because, let's be real, they don't have anything else. And as you can see, he's a 6'1", 226, but he's a big slot. And it's funny that he gets comped to Allen Lazard, right? I think that's actually pretty fitting comp from Player Profiler. So we'll see how that works out. But, yeah, it just hasn't come along. And if you look at a lot of his stats, it's not great early on. Obviously, he's more of a project. This is kind of what we'd expected from Mingo. Maybe not this level of bad. It's not, it's not like the Quinn Johnson, but he's actually getting snaps. He's been on the field, stuff like that. So I don't know. But I really like what I'm seeing from Thielen. So when I dove into the tape, that was what impressed me most. Obviously, you look at this data from Thielen and you're like, this guy's a god. What is happening? How is he so good? But even like look at the yards after the catch. Like that's 177 yards. That's not bad at all. That's really good. So a lot of that is due to the looks he's getting where there's really just no one after him, right? I have paid for that site. It is fun. I stopped paying for it this year, actually, but because we're saving up for a house, that's a whole other story. But yeah, I paid for Player Profiler for many of years. It was one of my favorites to use, and the data they have. But like, you could find this anywhere. You go Fantasy Points, you can go, any one of those websites, and they have fantastic data. If you look at the Fantasy Points data, I think it's really cool because they give you the details of like the first read, where they're seeing the targets and stuff like that. So those are two of probably my favorite sites. But like using, like I say, the data that we have and the film where you're using both. Yeah, I'll do that. I will definitely take advantage of that. I'll hit you up after that. But yeah, so I'm just really excited to see like what it looks like for Thielen, and we can kind of look at the game script for Carolina coming up because they're not going to be favored in a lot of these games, right? So they're going to have to pass a lot, and that works well for Thielen. They're going to be games. So interesting enough, they got games coming up with the Texans, the Colts, the Bears, the Cowboys. Like all the Cowboys game isn't really winnable, but they could beat the Texans. They could beat the Colts. They could beat the Bears, right? So they could be on an upward trajectory looking forward. I don't expect them to win those games, but those are all winnable games. Texans are struggling a little bit. Colts, Gardner Minshew, they got some D-line issues. And the Bears, like without Justin Fields, like it's kind of dumpster fire, right? So if Fields isn't back, like you could see an upward trend of Thielen. And so interestingly enough, the Texans defense is pretty good. I do want to see how they're going to try to take away Thielen in this matchup, but he's going to be a guy that you're just super confident in moving forward, where I don't know why you wouldn't be. Like, I'm curious, would love to hear like other people's points on this, like why you would fade Thielen from this point moving out. Maybe it's the play calling shift. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But everything we've seen from Thielen and how they're designing these touches for him. And what I mean by designing touches is like he's the first read look. So if Bryce trusts it, he's going to give it to Thielen because Thielen's been the one guy in that offense that's continually been good earning the targets. So, like, why would he go away from that, right? Unless something else changes where Bryce, for some reason, does not touch it. But, yeah, I have no idea why he would look away from that. So this is kind of our first initial, like, breakdown using game data along with, like, the film, combining the two of them to kind of give us a different look of what these players are doing on the field, if there's takeaways from it, right? But the fact they're aligning Thielen up so much inside, off the line of scrimmage, he's playing in the slot, they're setting him in motion, giving him free releases that way. They're finding ways to get him open because he's not going to be the X wide receiver where he's outside playing against the shutdown corner. And by the way, like, this really doesn't happen in today's NFL anymore. Teams are much more open with how they use wide receivers. They'll put them in the slot. They'll set them in motion all the time. Like you see the Rams or the Kings of this. Like they do this all the time with Cooper Kupp, right? But you're not going to see someone who's like Andre Johnson in years past where he just lines up at X, goes mono all the time. Like that's not how teams use wide receivers anymore. I think, and particularly like this fits Thielen's skill set a lot. Think of like in towards the end of his career, Larry Fitzgerald with the Carolina Panthers, how they were using Larry Fitzgerald, where we thought Larry Fitzgerald was dust, but guess what? He was earning targets. Similar situation. Obviously, the quarterback was a little more trustworthy back then, right? When, the Kurt Warner, and then it kind of bounced off, and we kind of had a little bit worse quarterback situation. But, who else in that offense did they trust? They trusted Larry Fitzgerald playing out of the slot where he's old. This is like, it's eerily similar to that. Like, that's the first thing that comes to mind when you tell me there's an ancient wide receiver who's declined the past few years, doesn't really, doesn't seem to have it anymore in a situation that isn't working out. Guess what? The team just puts him in the slot, which Thielen's been in the slot, and he's just been one of the better wide receivers in fantasy football. So, like, that's a smart decision by Reich and that play calling staff to decide, like, hey, we're going to use you majority of the time in the slot, like super Cooper Kupp in the slot. Even Kupp's not using that many slot snaps. I think Thielen's, like, number one in the NFL in slot snaps, and this is partly because, they're running so many plays. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, it's just Tannehill sucks, man. Like, he's broken, and I don't know what they do. Like, you could do this with DeAndre Hopkins, but he's never really played a lot in the slot. I think the most he played was like 20% in the slot. Where Thielen, this is more, natural. But yeah, like they should do it with Diop because they got to get the playmakers the ball. Like they do have Traylon Burks coming back, so like that's where Burks is going to be. So I don't know what they're going to do, right? Because they're probably just going to force DeAndre Hopkins. And DeAndre Hopkins, he's probably one of the most prideful wide receivers in the league since he's been one of the best guys the past decade. I'm like, hey, we need you to play a slot. He's like, no, I got it. And they'll put Burks there. So I don't know. I'm really worried about Tennessee, man. I just don't want to be set offense. Even Derrick Henry, it's just terrifying. But yeah, if they put him in the slot and they use it, I think that would be a fun player to break down. Kind of do the other side of the barrel where it's someone that's struggling in an offense and see if there's anything to take away. I'm going to post a Twitter poll for next week to talk about who are some options that people want to see, who they want broken down, and kind of like we could talk about it together and go over it because it's a fun way to break down the game. If you understand the game, you don't have to have like this complex understanding of what all the routes are called, what this stack or this bunch is called, right? Or like this, the old spider wide banana, blah, 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 John Gruden stuff, right? As long as you understand football and know like what these players are doing and how they're scheming up ways to succeed, like that's all you have to understand and break down film. You don't have to be some genius with any of that stuff. You just have to have eyes and trust your eyes. And if you see something that you like and it's translatable, you say, oh yeah, they can continue to do this. Or, against this defense, this should work really well because they play a lot of zone coverage, or, this team presses a lot. There's takeaways with this game footage. And I think that's the part where I've gone away from game footage the last few years, where I've been a lot more data oriented, but like why I got into this because I love football, and I played it growing up all the way through high school, did camps going into college and stuff. And like, that's just what I love. So like for me, this is kind of bread and butter, right? So you combine the two worlds, you talk about the players, you see what their role is, how it's going to translate moving forward, what are the takeaways. But yeah, like this is really the perfect way for Thielen to succeed. He has no competition. He's playing out of the slot exclusively. A lot of motion, a lot of off-line scrimmage with a bunch, and the trips, and they're giving him these free releases. And it's a lot of in-the-middle stuff, right? Where he's passing across a linebacker, and that's how he got his big yak play today. Or, sorry, on Sunday, where he got that 30-plus yard play. Or he's just sitting down with choice routes, where what a choice route is, you give a wide receiver an option, right? And Travis Kelce is the king of this. Like, he does this all the time. He just freewheels, and him and Mahomes are just, like, linked telekinesically. It's pretty wild. He just does what he wants. But, yeah, choice routes work really well if the wide receiver and the quarterback trust each other. Because if you do that, the wide receiver know where he's going to go, and the quarterback trusts it, then he just hit it. And that's where these choice routes are really fun. And Thielen's getting a ton of choice routes, right? Where he gets to sit, or he could break it out, he could break it in. You saw in his touchdown, he set up his play that he ran a guy clear across the middle. Thielen broke out and broke in and up. And a lot of these times it's a slant, but it was more like he pushed it not quite to the post, but that's kind of an in-between where it's like in between a slant and a post, and he hit it, and it was the perfect spot in that zone coverage, and that's how he got the touchdown, right? Because he's a veteran, he knows how to run these routes, and he knows the spots to sit down. And this is, you see him when they're checking a lot of times with Bryce, Thielen's the one that's passing on the checks because he knows the playbook probably by the back of his hand. He's done this 1,000 times because he's working with a lot of guys, that don't fully know the playbook. So that's the thing where you have a veteran you can count on, you trust it, and you go from there. So, yeah, this is going to be me signing off for this episode, but I just want to thank everybody for coming on. I had a great time breaking down this footage with you guys and talking about it. I hope you learned some stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to hit us up on the league winners. You can hit up my messages, any of the social media sites, all those places. But yeah, so I'll shoot out that message and we'll talk about who we're going to cover in next week's edition of the show. So anyways, thank you all for coming in to the Ranskins Fantasy Football Fanatic. This is the Fantasy Down Low with Jesse Moeller, aka JMoeller05. I thank you all for coming in, and take care, folks. We will see you next week.